All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're doing the Q&A session, Q&A portion with Mr. Ernesto Hernandez, our Bay Area expert. And I've got 5 questions here, FAQs. If you have questions that you'd like to ask of any of our guests for any particular topic, please feel free to shoot me an email at the info at the Oliver Perry Show, or even shoot me a DM at the Oliver Perry on IG. So we're gonna hop into this. All right, Ernesto. First question: what makes or breaks a home when selling?
I did a video on this recently. I would say a few things. Make sure you price it accordingly. And there are certain trends that happen in certain neighborhoods. So make sure your realtor has the data to back up why you're pricing it where you are. So you bring in the right amount of buyers. You don't want to have a situation where you price way too low and you just have a flood of non ideal buyers in your home, but you don't want to price it too high to where you're scaring people off. So making sure you have a really, really well thought out pricing strategy, I think, is really important. I'm a big believer in staging. I've seen the effects of people not staging. I think it plays a huge role, not so much because of the way that it looks online, but the way that it feels when somebody steps into it. So I'm a big, big proponent of staging and just overall presentation. So the photos online, we live in a world and we live in a time where people are looking at everything online as people
Mhm.
are scrolling down a menu of different options, that being other home in your area. You want yours to look really, really appealing. People eat with their eyes. Make sure your presentation is on point, and that leads into when you're having your open houses, you're having people come through the home. Just make sure it's really, really clean. You don't want anyone to feel like it's less than a premium product, because in the end, I think that will cost you from an offer perspective.
I love it. Next question: what are your 3 top tips for people investing in the Bay Area?
Three top tips for people investing in the Bay Area.
Mhm.
There are different strategies, and so I think me personally observing people do well in different niches. There are still people doing well in Airbnb, even though there are a lot of limits on short-term rentals. So I know people that are doing well in what they call the long shorts. So guests that stay for at least 30 days, but not anything beyond a year. So that is a niche that is still doing really, really well. Flipping, if you are particularly talented. So I'm seeing people now do really well in truly maximizing the entire lot, or even some scenarios where people will build below the ground. Surprisingly, I know someone that
Wow.
did extremely well in Palo Alto, which is a really, really expensive city, and got really creative with the rules there. So people are still doing really, really well. And I really like house hacking. I'm a huge fan of the house hacking niche. The ability to rent out a room, convert a garage, put an ADU in your backyard. There's a new law that just went into effect in California that was recently signed. I did a video on this as well, a short one. I'll probably do something longer. But in California, ultimately, it will be easier for people to subdivide lots as long as each lot ends up being at least 1,200 square feet. And
Wow.
so if I'm thinking like an investor and I want to maximize my income, heck, if I could buy a home and it's sitting on a 5,000 square foot lot, and I know I'm not going to need all of it, and I could potentially section part of that off
Right.
and drop a separate unit on there for rental income. That I think is especially if it's not going to be your forever home. I think is a really, really great strategy, and that newly passed law in California is going to make it easier for people to do that.
Wow. Okay. That is that's something I didn't know. I didn't know that. That's
Fresh,
awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, that just passed like literally a week ago. Not an SB10. If you're in California, you should look into. In short, the state government wants to make it easier for people to build more units. Bottom
I
line.
like it. I like it. That's a good thing. All right. Next
Yeah.
question: what should investors look for in a real estate agent?
Um, Good question. I think you have to. It's a partnership. That's the
Right.
biggest thing, and you have to trust them. You have to trust your agent. Doesn't mean you just blindly take all their advice, but you have to feel like they're credible. So as long as you go into that agreement with, I think, those two pillars, like
Mm-hmm.
I have to play a certain role as a seller or a buyer. I have to play my part. I shouldn't be drug along in this process.
Right.
So it is a partnership, and there's got to be trust. If there's no trust, that's one of the things I love about this industry. And one thing that I don't do, I know it's maybe a little controversial in the eyes of some. There are some agents that make their clients sign, especially on the listing side, it's it's basically required. You have a listing agreement signed for
Right.
X amount of time. But on the buying side, there are basically exclusive buyer representation agreements that state you will only work with me as your agent for the next 6 months to a year.
Right.
I don't like to do that. I like to always leave the door open for us to mutually, one of the most impactful books that I ever read in my entire life was the Four Agreements. I keep referencing books. One of the Four Agreements is don't take anything personal. And I have no issue with somebody saying, Ernesto, respectfully, this partnership is not working out. I think it's best that we go our separate ways. If you give me an explanation, that would be great, but you're not obligated to. I think it's important to enjoy the person that you're working with, especially on a journey so important as buying or selling your home.
Ernesto, man, where have you been my whole life? What is going on here? These answers to these questions are phenomenal, dude. Like this, the thought process behind what you're saying is amazing, and I think you're referencing those books for an exact reason, and that reason is because they're giving you the knowledge. So many people read books and they don't put it to use. You are clearly putting that to use, man. That is great, great, great advice. And I'm not going to ramble on because I know we got two more questions to go, and I want to keep this to FAQ. So let's get to it. All right. Next question is: what information do you need for a real estate investor to help? Sorry, let's go back. Let's rephrase that. What information do you need to have to help a real estate investor find a good deal?
If they're an investor,
Mm-hmm.
this is a good question. I need to know your criteria. Now that will change along the way. Some people don't have crystal clear clarity in the beginning, and it's just like it would be just like a home buyer. It's similar. Like in the beginning, you may not have crystal clear criteria because we haven't gone and looked at homes and filtered things out.
Right.
It is helpful when an investor tells me, I want to be in this location. Generally, this is more or less what I'm looking in a project, and these are the types of returns that I'm looking for. So you at least have some criteria so
Mm-hmm.
that we can filter everything, not everything, so that we can filter certain things out. Because if we're looking at a list of 20 different investment opportunities, we have to have at least a general idea of what to say no to because it doesn't check most of our boxes. The mistake that I think I see some of my peers make is they get approached by investors and they're so excited that they're working with a cash buyer. And
Right.
the investor more or less says, go and find me a good deal. And I see fellow agents will just kind of ask around, hey, does anybody have a fixture upper that I can buy for 700,000? Like that is literally only one piece of a literally a 20-piece puzzle.
Right.
Is I have cash and here's what I want to buy it for. So I need to know what your end goal is as an investor. And that really really helps because there's one client that I was working with that wanted to basically burr in the Bay Area, wanted to buy it, rehab it, and have
Mm-hmm.
approximately 25% equity. I said, respectfully, you're looking for a literal needle in a haystack. So you're going to have to be extremely patient, or we're going to have to get really creative with the rehab. And I just showed them some preliminary data to prove that that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, you know what? You're right. I really don't think this is going to work. So that's okay. But at least you knew what you wanted. And I had data to show you that that's going to be really tough for you to obtain.
Dude, I want y'all to know this is not at all scripted. I told Ernesto like the questions like 3 minutes before we started this interview, and he said they were hard. It does not feel like these questions are hard right now, but it's fine. We're gonna keep going. They're not meant to be hard anyway. All right, man.
I'm
Next
so
question. No, man, this is amazing. This is so good. Where are the best places, in your opinion, for people to look to invest in the Bay Area in the near future?
that is the dreaded response of it depends. It depends on what your goals are. It depends on what you're looking for.
Fair.
Areas that areas that I like that I think are a little under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is a city called San Pablo, which is not that large, and it's tucked in between Richmond and Pinole. We just haven't seen the type of appreciation there yet that I think is going to happen in the near future. I really look at areas that still have a long runway, and that's definitely one of them. So if you are looking to buy in a city that is generally pretty safe. It's still more of a kind of blue collar community. You're not going to get fantastic schools, for example, but you are getting a really good location. You know, you're getting proximity to San Francisco in a place that hasn't gone off the charts in terms of year over year appreciation. I'm bullish on San Pablo. I was bullish on Concord.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I moved here 4 years ago, I said this city has a lot of potential.
Right.
It is very close to San Francisco. It has fantastic infrastructure. I think the quality of life here is really good. I wish the schools were a little bit better, but that kind of is what it is. Doesn't mean they're bad, but they're not fantastic. And in the last 18 months, Concord has exploded. Um, but Concord is still a good value. But again, you know, it really depends on kind of what you're looking for. If I'm younger and I don't have a family and I want to make a smart investment early in my life,
Mm-hmm.
there is a lot of small multifamily inventory in Oakland, and Oakland gets a bad rap, but Oakland has appreciated ridiculously as well, in line with Concord in the last 12 to 18 months. And so, if you're looking for a house hack scenario, a duplex up to a quadplex, and you could occupy one of the units and maybe move out, you know, 2 3 years down the road, and you're left with a cash flowing asset in a prime location in the Bay Area. I really really like Oakland. So those are a couple of areas that I think are still relatively under the radar, that I've been pretty bullish on.
I love it, man. I love it. Thank you so much, Ernesto, for giving us the Q&A, giving us your opinion, hitting us with so many, so many lines. It's like quotables. I'm gonna have to make so many T-shirts off these quotables, bro. Like it's gonna be out of control once I start making T-shirts. Anyway, we're done here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again so much for tuning in, Ernesto. Thank you again for coming on, Ernesto. Give me your information once again, and let's get some people in contact with you.
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram, so you can find me at Bay Area Homes by Nest on Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel by the same name, and I'm not hyper active on Facebook like I used to. And if I'm being 100% transparent, my VA completely runs my LinkedIn page. Um, so if you want to reach me and know that I'm going to respond,
Uh,
Instagram, Instagram's your best bet.
I love the honesty there. I love the honesty there. You can't be on all the platforms, man. It's just sometimes too much and it's daunting. You gotta have your focus one or two. So I support you 120 in your decision. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Oliver Perry. This is Ernesto. Really gotta get this thumb thing down. This is Ernesto on this side. You can find me at the Oliver Perry Show on YouTube or at the Oliver Perry on Instagram. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share this with somebody who you think needs it or who's looking to invest in the Bay Area. Make sure they get in contact with Ernesto. He's going to be your guy, I assure you. And just based off the interview and based off this FAQ, I'm certain you agree. So we got to go for now, but it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next time. Ernesto, say bye.
Good weekend, everybody.
I'll take it. Later, everybody.